We've been developing this biological nematicide, which has been also worked on overseas for 10 years now. And here in Australia, we've been working on it for about 5 years. What we wanted to do is really put the product under a lot of pressure where we know there's lots and lots of nematodes in the soil. We do that in research farms as well as on commercial paddocks. We've been working with the key vegetable crops where root knot nematode is a major issue. And so those crops are particularly the tuber and root crops like sweet potato, carrot, but also the solanaceous crops like capsicum and tomato, and on top of that, the cucurbits like pumpkins and cucumbers. All of those crops are quite susceptible to damage from these root knot nematodes. They're quite a curious group of organisms. They're a microscopic round worm, and they will actually penetrate the developing root system of the crop. And so that will drag nutrients away from the crop, and also they form galls on the actual roots, which is very much a reduction in the marketability of say, root crops like carrot and sweet potatoes. But they'll also reduce the vigour and overall health of the crop itself. We wanted to test the product under high nematode pressure, but also where growers are needing new options for nematode management. So we've done a lot of work around the Bundaberg area. We've done a lot of work in also southeast Queensland, but then we've topped that up with some work in South Australia, in Tasmania, in Western Australia, and a little bit of work in Victoria as well. People who have been dealing with nematodes over the years know that there's not one single silver bullet, if you like, for the management. So we've trialled using this product alone. We've also trialled it using it with other chemicals, for example, and we would also be stressing that people think about crop rotation and genetics and soil health in general as well as management tools. But so far what we've seen over the 35 odd trials that we've done in Australia, that this biological product does stand up to the chemical products and provides similar levels of control. The two different strains are in there together because they have slightly different spectrum of production of these metabolites and also the rate of colonisation. And the other thing we have seen with evidence in both lab and glasshouse studies is that the product has the ability to stimulate the plant's own defences. The advantage of this biological is that you don't have to worry about residues. There's no plant back issues with rotation, etc. So there's more flexibility, I would say. It's only 8 weeks into the trial and we're already seeing some quite visual responses. And to put it clearly, this is a research farm where there's very high levels of nematodes in the soil. So in the untreated, where there's been no nematicides at all used, we can see a very marked reduction in growth and vigour of the crop even without looking at the roots. The key thing with the application of this product is that we need to see the product applied in the early root growth of the crop. For transplanted crops, that can be at planting. For seeded crops, it could be at emergence, so with carrots, for example. We've seen probably the best results where we've put 2 applications on, one in that first sort of 14 days of the crop, and then another one 14 to 21 days after that. So it can be applied by drip tape or in front of an irrigation. In some cases, you could apply it via boom spray and then water it in. But the key thing is to get the product just into the root zone, equal to the chemical standards. And we would most often see a reduction in those root galling symptoms compared to an untreated. And that's about the same level of reduction that you would see with the chemicals. And that's under high pressure. This type of biological product helps to manage resistance of the chemicals. Those modes of action are quite broad, so it'd be very unlikely for the nematodes to develop resistance to the biological.